Good.
Ready to fire. Fire.
The Javelin is a close-quarter anti-tank missile system. When real-world scenarios come across, like in Iraq, 2003, 2004, we actually had 3 guys on the ground.
You definitely need to get your hands on it and definitely be trained on it before you get out there. Once we get to work with them and we start showing them, you got to lock in these gates.
Capabilities of a weapon so lethal as the Javelin.
The training was phenomenal, honestly.
Learned a lot. Wow, it's breathtaking. I mean, you do it.
Ukrainian military, fighting the much larger Russian invasion force, has been able to kill hundreds of Russian tanks and armored vehicles using a handheld anti-tank missile supplied by US, according to a US journalist who has been tracking the war in the East European nation. At least 280 Russian armored vehicles have been destroyed with the American Javelin Missile out of 300 shots fired. Journalist Jack Murphy said in an article quoting a U.S. Special Operations official. The Javelin, made jointly by Raytheon Missiles and Defence and Lockheed Martin, follow a flight path that hits targets from the top, where the armor is relatively weaker. Almost every tank armor is thicker on the sides, but the top is known to be weaker, and that is where the Javelin missile strikes. The Javelin can also be fired in a straight flight path mode if needed. The first shipment of Javelins arrived in Ukraine in 2018. The weapon systems, along with a training and sustainment block, called the Total Package Approach, totaling somewhere around $75 million, Mr. Murphy wrote in the article. As the Russians learned that Ukraine now had Javelins, their T-72 tanks in Donbass became less aggressive and pulled further back from the front lines, he said, quoting U.S. military officials. A single soldier can carry and operate the Javelin, though more hands would be needed to carry extra launch tubes. When Russian armored columns entered urban areas in Ukraine, their tanks became more vulnerable to Javelin hits if they didn't have infantry support. Ukrainian forces equipped with Javelins would hide and move quicker, as they didn't have a chance in a direct tank versus tank fight on open ground because of the sheer numbers the Russians possess. However, the numbers of tanks killed by Ukrainian soldiers with the Javelin or other anti-tank weapons are difficult to take seriously. Mostly appearing on social media, these numbers are likely to be exaggerated by the Ukrainians and downplayed by the Russians. The usual fog of war makes it even more difficult to ascertain accurate numbers, Mr. Murphy wrote. Telenko, a former auditor for U.S. Defense Contract Management Agency, told The Telegraph that the wet and boggy weather experienced in spring and autumn makes cross-country movement extremely difficult, as well as the Rasputitsa, a Russian word referring to both the weather and road conditions. At these times, bad tire maintenance, vehicle overcrowding, and lack of fuel have isolated most of this Russian army column from its rear, Mr. Telenko said. The Telegraph reported that Russian ground forces are not performing in the way they believed they would, how they previously trained, or how they would pride themselves to be. A Western official told the publication that the enormously large traffic jam was partly the result of damaged or destroyed vehicles blocking the road, presenting Russia with a real problem passing logistics forward to enable that force to actually move at pace. They said the force has not really made any significant progress now for a number of days. Referring to the Russian army's wider report setbacks in Ukraine, the official said, "If you're looking for the highlight example of poor planning and poor execution, that convoy sat where it is and is a really good example." According to the report, Ukrainian counterattacks are reported to have pushed the front line further away from Kyiv in towns to the west of the capital, which have seen heavy fighting over the past few days. The Western officials said that Ukrainian troops have shown their ability to fight ferociously and exist for a long period of time in austere conditions.